What is said to have carried the president over the line is what Ron Brownstein, the great National Journal reporter, called the coalition of the ascendant. Hispanics, African Americans, Asian Americans, young people, gays and lesbians. It was a coalition win as opposed to a broad win for the president. Obviously in Texas, we're particularly interested in at least one of those coalitions, and that is the Latino coalition. Latinos went 71% for President Obama. In the last, I don't know how many elections, only President Clinton in 1996 won a larger share of the Latino population than President Obama did. Governor Romney's percentage was down from Senator McCain's, which was itself down from President Bush's. Senator Patrick, we live in a state that is going to very soon be Hispanic majority. A lot of concern nationally that Republicans are repelling Latinos rather than attracting them. What do you think about that, and how is that different? You mentioned Representative Villalba, Senator Cruz. Obviously.
But the numbers on Senator Cruz, I know they're not all in completely, but it indicated that he may have only had about a 35% vote of the Latino vote.
Well, let me ask Senator Patrick.
I think he beat the Democrat pretty soundly.
Yeah.
He did. He won, but when in the specific part of this question and the repelling...
As it relates to Latino specific.
That's right.
Speak about that, Senator. You represent a city that is among the most, you know, of the big cities. Sure. Houston is quite Hispanic.
Sure. Our party has to continue to connect with the Latino community. I believe their values, pro-life values, pro-family values, great work ethic, match up with our party better. We can do a better job of...
You're generalizing that is generally speaking,
I think the Latino community has more in common with our party than where the Democrats stand. We have to do a better job of laying that out and reaching out to the community. But again, I go back to Ted Cruz, Villalba, J.M. Lozano, Larry Gonzalez a few years ago. It's interesting. Latinos are coming here from around the country, and so they're coming to Texas. And it's one of the reasons that I'm very excited to be chairman of education, because one of the issues we have to solve is we have to solve the dropout rate of Latino male students particularly, as well as African American students in our state who are dropping out in high numbers. We cannot have a successful economy moving forward and a workforce. We don't have the workforce now to meet many of the skilled jobs that are needed that don't necessarily require a four-year education. And I intend to make sure we do everything we can to reach out to the minority community to be sure they have an opportunity at the Texas of the American dream. And you can't live the dream without a good job, and you can't have a good job without a great education. And we're going to lead on that. And we're going to give Latino families choices and options that they've never had to have a chance at that dream.
Do you worry, Senator, that some perceive the Republican Party as pushing an agenda on whether it's sanctuary cities, voter ID? I've talked to any number of your fellow incoming senators, both new and current, who say that they're ready to kick in-state tuition to the curb. Charles Krauthammer on Fox the other night said that where Governor Romney went wrong was when he got to the right of Rick Perry on in-state tuition in the primary. The question I have is, are you all legislatively doing one thing that goes against the very opportunity-focused rhetoric that you're offering this morning?
I think we've always been opportunity-focused. We've also believed in law and order. Look, the issue has always been, and I represent a lot of Latino business people in Senate District 7. Yeah. Some vote Democrat, some vote Republican. But the Latino community is as concerned as the Anglo community or the African American community about the increase in gang violence. We see many of the gang members who have crossed the border to come into our state. They're concerned about some of those sanctuary city policies. They're concerned about their businesses growing. They're American citizens. And I don't buy into the argument that it's only Anglos who are concerned or Republicans. I think a lot of Democrats are concerned about this issue, and they should be. I was down on the border about a month ago, and in that particular week, we know that two people from Afghanistan and Pakistan crossed our border. The security on the border is not about, we welcome immigrants from all nations and all countries. We want them to come here and live the American dream. But we have real dangerous people that want to come into our state, whether they're part of the drug cartels or they're people from countries of interest around the world. Yeah. And it concerns me, and we need to address that problem. So that securing the border should be looked at as a law and order issue, which I know I would believe the senator would support
not as a
well.
partisan issue.
Not as a partisan issue.
Well, look, for that ought to be, I agree. securing the border and making sure that we're secure is not a partisan issue. And it is something that we ought to all work hard to do.
Agreed.
And I feel very strongly about that. With that being said, your question is different than that. Your question involves the role that some are playing right now in, I think, in a negative way as it applies to the Latino community. Let's start with the concept of sanctuary cities. You know, you can talk about wanting to have a border that is secure and making sure that we have law and order, and nobody's going to be opposed to that. Everybody's going to be for that, but profiling becomes a real problem. And I think that the legislation that some have been pushing in the legislative sessions related to what gets broadly labeled sanctuary city involves profiling. And Latinos and Hispanics that say we want to have strong law and order, they are. Law and order along with everybody else, they want law and order, but what they don't want is discriminatory profiling. So sanctuary cities...
And no one in our party, Senator, has ever...
Well, except that the bills do that. Except that the bills do that. And I know nobody wants to say that out loud, but that's what the effect of the bills are. So
that's with due respect, that's your view.
And with due respect, I let you talk. So the second thing, you've got the sanctuary cities. You also have voter ID. And the whole concept of voter ID is, in my view, and I've seen it said by somebody before me, is that when the Republican Party can't create that coalition, it's not going to reach out to those people. Here's what we'll do. We'll just make sure they can't vote. And so the voter ID and redistricting, those were also bills that I think show a lack of concern for creating a coalition with the Latino community. And frankly, you don't have to listen to me on that or take my word for it. Take the federal court's word for it. In both of those instances, the federal courts came in and said there was discrimination in those very specific issues. You mentioned in-state tuition, the concept of in-state tuition. That was something that the governor, during his presidential race, strongly defended to his detriment in the Republican Party. He defended it to his detriment. And now what you're hearing is exactly what you just indicated. You've interviewed some people in this forum where they were originally for it, but now they're going to be against it. And I think you will see a strong effort to do away with that, and it will be the Republican Party that will be leading on that. And then from the standpoint of an opportunity, I completely agree that one of the big issues in the Hispanic and Latino community is the opportunity involved with education. But look at what has happened by those in control of the Capitol when it comes to education. Right now, about 40% of the Hispanic population, if I get my numbers right, around a little bit over 40% of the Hispanic population have people, is 25% or older that doesn't have a high school diploma. Whereas in the Anglo community, it's more like 8%. And then if you flip over to the college part of that, it's almost 3 times more Anglos have a college degree than do the Latinos. I think I got that out of something called the Tribune. I don't remember where I got that. So it may not be accurate, but
I'd like to respond. I'd like to respond to that one. I don't want to interrupt, but I don't want you to own the half hour.
Well, all I'm saying is, if we are going to talk about education and that being an opportunity issue, we need to quit cutting the funding for education. We need to, and by the way, when it gets cut, then deny that it was cut. Until you get a pants on fire in the American Statesman, then okay, well maybe it was cut. We got to quit cutting education. We got to provide the resources for that growing population to be able to meet the accountability standards. So I think there is a real problem.